Hey up lads and lasses, Damphyre here, back again with some more Infinite Lagrange. So, as we can see, we have the new cruisers and stuff added in. Apparently, I never did one when the Connemara came out. So we have the Connemara Chaos to be added and the CAS 066. I think I did do the Connemara, but I did it in its own video when it released. And we have the new CAS support ship. So let's start from the top. S tier, we still have the Callisto Heavy Torpedo. It's as viable as it ever was. It does high damage. It's potentially even more viable now. We're going to start seeing heavier fleets about because of the healing buff, I believe. So yeah, the Callisto Heavy Torp's just not going to move. It's going to sit up there. Down into A tier, we have the Callisto Base Torpedo. I'm actually going to move this down and quite a bit, I think. It's either going to go... I'm going to put it top of C. It's just generically quite good. It has got high DPM. A little bit squidgy and slow. But you'll see why when I get down to like the Callisto UAVs. It doesn't make sense to run the Callisto Torpedo pretty much anymore. So we then have the Chimera Heavy Cannon. Easily one of the better front rows, and now with the healing buff, that on your front row, high damage, decent healing amount, good armor. It's going to stick where it is in A. Light Cone Assault, very similar. Good damage, indirect fire damage. You're going to need that. And the Light Cone's probably one of the better of the indirect fire ships. It has high DPM. It's all missiles, and they do remarkably well. Plus, on top of that, you're getting the support of some info UAVs. So it's not a bad ship at all. So definitely check out the Light Cone Assault. That's going to stay in A. IO anti-ship. The meta is shifting, I think, a little bit towards a heavier fleet. However, I think the IO anti-ship is still going to be a requirement. Well, not a requirement, but definitely a top tier. Just due to the fact that, you know, it's really good against those Frigg Destroyer fleets. And if they're running the off-tank that I like to run, which is the HCRS and Taurus Offensive on the front line, now Winged Hussar on the front line, that IO anti-ship is going to have an absolute field day pulling those apart. And decent dodge rate on it's going to help out with the fact that it's, you know, cruiser level armor. So the healing buff's going to help out as well. So definitely within a bit of support, the IO anti-ship's going to be up there. Jaeger Aircraft and Predator Tactical, definitely going to keep those up in A. They are quintessential to the Swarm fleet for the anti-super cap, and there is nothing that can really replace them. They are the only, well, they're not the only two. Obviously, you've got the other versions of the Predators and stuff like that. But they are the best in slot for your anti-ship cap strategy to make sure that your aircraft are hitting them pretty hard. Predator Tacticals, especially with Hayridans, Jaegers with Silly Defenders, that sort of thing, really good on them. So definitely staying in A tier. There's a potential for an S tier for them as well. They may even be a bit higher up on the A tier, like maybe the top of A. Maybe the Light Cone behind all of them. I think the IO anti-ship, probably not quite as useful as the Jaeger Predators, the Chimera Heavy Cannon. Again, it's maybe the A tier is looking like this at the current moment with Jaeger Aircraft and Predator Tactical. Predator Tactical, I think, a little bit up, gets the bonus support of the info UAVs. Although they don't do massive amounts, it does help a little bit. It's also one of the only other thing, other than the series Tactical, which can force the info UAVs to do cruisers only. Downside of that is the Predator is a cruiser, so it can end up buffing itself, which is a bit unfortunate. Into B tier, we have the IO, the Iron Cannon. This is the base variant. Now, beforehand, because of a lot of the fleets that we were facing were mostly Frigate Destroyer on the front line, the IO Iron Cannon had a bit of a trouble with the hit rate. However, now due to the fact that most of those are going to be potentially cruisers, and you're going to see a lot of whales running around with spears and that kind of thing on the front line. The IO Iron Cannon might actually be the better in slot than the anti-ship. So what I want to do is move the IO Iron Cannon up, and I think the Light Cone Assault above the IO anti-ship, and I think that's quite nice there. Like I said, I think you're going to start seeing a meta switch to a heavier fleet, and the IO anti-ship's just not going to be quite as viable, whereas the base IO Iron Cannon is going to have a field day pulling those cruisers and the likes apart. Probably still not as strong as a HC Chimera, but definitely up there. Chimera Ballistics, it's basically a Chimera heavy cannon, just not quite as good in my opinion. It hasn't got the DPM. The HC just wins it for me, so I'm going to leave that in B tier. Light Cone Generic, I'm going to push up one. It has got some better AA capability now, so it is actually worth potentially running. Not only that, with its flagship skill, it's actually not too bad at all running them as flagships and then going mid-fleet heavy, and it definitely help out. It's nowhere near what the Winged Hussar's AA damage output, but it's not bad either. Cass Artillery, I'm going to be moving down to the bottom of B tier, top of C tier. Like I've mentioned, the reason we mostly ran Cass Artillery is because it had a hit rate buff and stuff against frigates and destroyers, I think, and I just don't think that's going to be quite as viable anymore. Cass Integrated, again, going down as well. And pretty much the same reason there. The Integrated isn't particularly strong. It's probably better than the Artillery now, and you're going to see a bit better damage output from it. I mean, the Artillery's still not bad, so it's still a B tier ship, and the Integrated will still be a B tier ship. Predator Generic and the KCPV 2.0. KCPV 2.0, literally because it's the only cruiser you can get with a large hangar. So, kind of like has to be in B, basically. Because if you don't have a carrier and you have got Vita Speeds, the only way you're going to bring them in is KCCPV 2.0, and you get that for free. So, it's going to stay in B tier for me. Predator Generic, it's not quite as good as Predator Tactical. So yeah, it's basically the same reason you would take a Predator Tactical, but you're just missing out on the info UAVs there, and its AA damage differences are just negligible, so it's not worth talking about really. They both have pretty poor AA capability. Callisto Torpedo we talked about, so we're in C tier. Jaeger HC, I'm going to move up to the bottom of B tier. Very, very similar to the Carillion heavy cannon. This thing's got pretty much the exact same flagship skill, and that flagship skill gives you like amazing ability to destroy fleets on the flank. So definitely check out the Jaeger HC. I think you need 3 of them to trigger the flagship skill. I don't know why I keep trying to forget flagship. And yeah, it's going to do some work in that flank fleet, and it's going to help out the damage, hit what it kind of needs to hit a little bit more easily. So Jaeger HC's definitely up there in B tier, literally because the flagship skill's really damn strong. Callisto UAV is going up to top of B tier. It has basically the same damage output as the Callisto Torpedo, and you're getting UAVs that deal, I believe it's back row anti-air off the top of my head. I'm pretty certain it's the back row, and it'll cover the back row with its AA UAVs, and they actually do all right. Definitely worth checking out the Callisto UAV. It's either very bottom of A tier or top of B tier, in my opinion. And I did try it out in the pilot server. I was surprised that it was considerably better than it was before patch, and the damage output was actually like basically the same as the base Callisto, even though it's missing like 4 of its torpedoes. So yeah, quite a surprise on that one. Callisto UAV, if you've got it, definitely check it out. If you are looking for a more back row anti-air, it's going to bring you good DPM and back row AA. So, decent ship at the end of the day. CAS 06, the CAS aircraft, it's C tier. There's just better options to bring in corvettes, and it only brings in 2 for 16 CP, is it, or 18 CP? It's not worth it. I mean, you can bring in 4 corvettes on, like, the Guardian dual purpose as an example for the same CP, and this is only going to bring in 2. It just isn't worth it. Where bringing in more aircraft over tank is more important in the case of Swarm. The CAS is still in C. It's potentially even like going down. It's definitely going down because we're going to talk about the Chimera Defensive now. Chimera Defensive, weird thing because it sits in the mid row and you'd want it on the front row. However, that massive defensive buff it's getting now because of the increased armor equals better healing. You're just going to see... You're probably not going to see them, and then they're going to stay in C tier for that reason. But they are, you could consider running them as a mid-row tank if you're running a more support-orientated fleet, running healing and that kind of thing. So definitely check it out. It's going to be useful, I think. I know it might actually surprise me. I might find some more battle reports with it, and I'm going to see it sort of creeping up the tier list as the year goes on, and we kind of work out what the new meta is going to be a little bit more. D tier, we've got the KCPV, integrated pulse and railgun. I'm not going to lie, they stay exactly where they are. They haven't really changed. The railgun, I'm actually going to move down to situational, and I'll talk about that one a bit more in a second. But the integrated, its DPM's just not there. It's squidgy as well. 16 CP is not bad for a cruiser though. Pulse, pretty much the same issue with the integrated type really. It's not really got the DPM. It is now energy based, which is nice, but the integrator's got indirect fire. So you just, unfortunately, they're just not quite enough. The railgun, the reason it's going into situational is it actually turns out it's not bad on the siege. So siege rail KCCPV fleets do perfectly fine. They are not as good as the IO siege. So you probably won't see them around too much. Same as like you probably see, if someone's got IO siege, they're going to be running those. If they don't, you probably see the KCCPV, and they will literally just be an 8 of in fleet or 10 of in fleet, fly into an outpost, blow it up, and run away. They're fast, good siege damage. That's all you kind of really need to know about them. Predator AA is moving up ahead of Predator Generic D to B tier. It's a nice little jump that. The actual AA UAVs it's bringing are half decent now. Not too dissimilar to the Callisto's UAV. Plus you're bringing an aircraft with it as well. So all in all, it actually turned out quite nice. I'm not mentioning the strike stuff here for the Jaegers and the Predators. Mostly as the flagship skill. Mostly because I just don't think strikes are going to be at all viable anymore. Like the amount of AA you can bring out now, if you strike into some guy's fleet and he's running Winged Hussar within his swarm fleet, your aircraft are just going to get absolutely decimated. And I think you're going to stop seeing strikes, honestly. I could be wrong there though. Light Cone AA also moving up, pretty similar reason. It's probably not as good as the Predator AA. So we're going from, situational now into B tier. It's not as good as Winged Hussar, even though it's got the same sort of strategy to give your fighters a little bit of a buff. But its UAVs just aren't as good or as reliably hitting as the Winged Hussar's missiles, in my opinion. And that's why the UAVs are sort of in the B tier. I'd love to see a change where all UAVs became fleet-wide. I think that would be a fair change, and then you'd probably see Callisto UAV, Predator AA, and Light Cone AA moving up to A and potentially even S tier. We could do with some more Xeno defensives, basically. It would be nice to see in these cruiser sizes as well. Onto the new ships that haven't been added to this board yet. We have the Connemara Chaos Plasma Railgun and the CAS support. Start with the Connemara Railgun because that is the base. Railgun is going into top of C, no, behind Callisto Torpedo. It's got good siege damage. Railgun's actually not bad on it, but it does suffer from hit rate. Actually, I'm going to put it up. It is going up. It's got better damage against heavier ships than the Callisto Torpedo. Is it better than... It's better than the Jaeger HC, but the only reason the Jaeger HC is there is due to the fact that it's got really good flagship skill. Now, I think it's top of C, bottom of B. So, great damage railgun. It's got dodge rate. It's back row. Or is it mid row? I'm pretty certain it's back row. And yeah, it does everything you want. And I think with the potential meta switch to heavier fleets, you'll see the railgun actually doing considerably better, and it might actually bring it up into that B tier. I think C tier for now, though. Connemara Plasma is going right the way up into A tier. We're going to put it head of the Chimera. Behind the Chimera. It's more or less on par with the IO Ion Cannon. IO Ion Cannon's also going to be functioning as a tank ship, where the Connemara Plasma is back. And that's going to leave you the ability to get more damage out of it, which is quite nice. At the same time, you're losing that tank in the front row, and it is a cruiser, so it'd be nice to have the tank on the front row, especially with the healing changes. Again, I keep mentioning this, the support style fleet. So I think it's actually quite good, and its damage output's really good. It's not too far behind Callisto Heavy Torp damage, but it can vary quite significantly. Like the Callisto Heavy Torp almost always just does well, whereas Connemara Chaos, it struggles with hit rates and that stuff a bit. And I think that's why I'm going to leave it in the sort of mid-row of A tier. Let me know down below what you guys think, if you think this should be a potential S tier, because it really isn't far behind a Callisto Heavy Torp in terms of damage output. Plus you're getting dodge rating and stuff in there as well, so it's quite a bit more survivable than potentially the Callisto. And now, last but not least, the CAS support. Straight to S tier. 3 UAVs. A strategy that gives it a 30% buff for however long. Basically means it's running 4 UAVs for 18 CP, plus all of its tank, plus it's got some damage output. It's got, 300 DPM cannon, not DPM cannon, 300 alpha cannon. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's probably the best healer in game now, come to think of it. Because of its own tank and stuff, you're going to get healing buffs with it anyway. On top of the fact that I believe it has even more support buffs, modules, to give it increased healing as well. So you are getting like that 4 UAV constant, plus the 30% on strategy. And, it's a cruiser. It's got armor, it's got HP, it's going to stick around. I've been hearing reports of the CAS being used with a spear front line, and people being unable to even damage it. There's just too much healing output coming out from CAS support with UAVs, spears with UAVs, and yeah, just sit there and tank it all day long. So there you go. We have a new S tier ship in the cruisers, and the fact that I can actually now say cruisers are relatively more viable, and maybe look at building them more in the future. I have a very sneaky suspicion that we're going to switch from that sort of dodge off tank or a full Carillion front row tank. We may start seeing Chimera heavy cannon front row with like high armor, CAS support, and then mixing in, a couple of Preds and Jaegers to get the extra aircraft in with your solar whale reinforce and that kind of thing. There's a very good possibility you may start seeing a lot of cruisers, and honestly, I'm all for it because I'd love to see big cruiser fleets and that kind of thing. definitely going to be a bit more fun, I think, moving forward with the game. So, that is the cruisers, and yeah, not bad going at all. I'm actually enjoying going through these tier lists again because it's been so long. Anyway, let me know what your thoughts are down below. I do try and read through all the comments, see what you guys think. This is my opinion again. Obviously, my opinion's based on battle reports that I've received, testing that I've personally done. So, it's not, I like it because it looks pretty kind of thing. So do let me down below. Let me know down below what do you think. But yeah, that's the cruises. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.